Hi! Welcome to the show. Blackie,
yes, sir.
$500 million and 1 year to record.
Oh, somebody shortchanged you, bud. Let me tell you something. More like 15 months and $600,000. So I've heard of a day late and a dollar short, but it's $100,000 short at this point. We had to rob our piggy banks to make this one.
Yeah, I thought I'd wind it up.
Big piggy bank.
On your album, you talk about political and world issues. Are you trying to get a point over the record?
When we finished the circus tour, Inside the Electric Circus tour a couple of years ago, I got to a point where I just didn't have anything to say anymore. You know, either in interviews or even more importantly, musically. We did songs like Animal and Wild Child and Blind Texas. Those are all great songs, but we said that. What are you going to do? Keep trying to remanufacture the same songs over and over again? I mean, you end up being a parody of yourself, and a bad parody at that. If you don't change, then you just dry up and wither away. I mean, you have to say something new after a while. And what I was going through was things that had been boiling inside of me for a long time. I mean, my specific viewpoints about, well, the album itself is called The Headless Children. And the Headless Children, if people think, Wasp are running around lopping kids' heads off and things like that, it's nothing like that at all. The Headless Children started out as being an anti-nuclear war song. And then the more and more I watched the news, it started dawning on me that that is what the Headless Children is all about. It's about any insanity that you see anywhere. And these are things that I felt for a long time and just never said anything about it. And the more and more I started talking to fans and viewing my attitudes on things like drugs, which I believe is our single biggest problem that we have, it dawned on me that there are more people out there that think like this than I thought that there were. I just thought it was sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's all they care about. They don't want to know about anything else, and how wrong I really was. And this record is a serious record about serious subject matter, and I would really therefore like it be very much to be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's how much it's been point up.
So what about your actual live show, Blackie? Have you tamed that down from?
Well, Wasp will always do a big show. I mean, it wouldn't be Wasp without it, but what we're going to do is, you haven't seen the album cover yet, and maybe we can get one around here somewhere, which you can insert, but we're going to attempt to bring this album cover to life. So, to say that we used to do things like the Rack and all that before, what we're trying to get away from is something that's not do anything that's going to detract away from what we're doing musically. This time we let the music do the talking, but we build the visuals into what's around the music, instead of having the visuals work against it where it's visual and just, the music becomes a soundtrack to what we're doing visually.
It must be a big decision to sort of change your music and change your whole outlook on...
Well, he's always wanted to do heavier stuff than we've done, and we just got to a point where the subject matter was very serious, and I could not see doing a serious subject without having music that was equally aggressive to go with it. So at that point we decided, to do it. I think we had a little dissension on whether we wanted to use keyboards or not, but it was one of those things I said, just trust me on it, because I'm seeing the vision in my head as to what it sounds like, and it's changed it for the better, I think.
Well, the album is a bit late coming to the MTV and the Bailey Brothers, but I heard there's a ballad, Forever Free, is that right?
Yes.
What's that about then, Blackie?
Forever Free is, unfortunately, a true story about someone who is very close to me, who's no longer with us, and really, in all honesty, the song has no business being on the album, because it's not as heavy or as aggressive as the rest of the album. This is the most aggressive European-sounding record we've ever done. I mean, it sounds, in a lot of ways, unlike anything we've ever done. But this song, like I said, is in some ways schizophrenic and doesn't really coincide with everything else that's going on, but it's something that I felt, and I've learned in the last few years you don't deny the feelings that you have inside of you, because I think I did that for too long. Somebody was asking me the other day, they said, describe yourself in one word, and I said, misunderstood, because people would see the image, and most people, because they never got a chance to talk to me, just assumed, that the image was preceding everything before I ever walked into a room, and they thought I was going to lean over and start chewing on their nose or something. And I thought, well, it's time, because we've done all that, we've said all that, it's time to give them a little more insight as to what's really going on here.
Blackie, I mean, people quote that you're mentally worn out these days. Is that a true quote?
So something like my accountant's trying to push off on me, you know, you're not really right. You should let me handle all of these things for you. Yeah,
But you have to go on it. It's hard, like producing your own album, the writing, and then all the PR, what's got to be done.
I'll be honest with you. Before we started this record, I had it. When I saw you guys at Donington a year and a half ago, I was just starting to come out of it at that time. But because we went for so long, we did a record and a tour and a record and a tour and a record and a tour, and finally after a while, you know, I didn't know what my name was after a while.
Yeah.
I was walking around bumping into walls for no reason at all. And you really get to a point where you don't know who you are and what your name is, and more importantly, you don't know where you're going. And I've had this conversation with two other guys in major bands that have said, you know, expressed the same kind of feelings that they both said, and they'll remain nameless, but each record that they had both made previous said they didn't know what they were doing. You know, you start doing things on instinct, and that is not good for creativity.
No, it's
so
not.
you really have to take a step backwards, so hopefully you can take two forward.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Really has.
Thanks, Mick.
Chris?
Des.
Cheers.
Look forward to it.
On tour.
On tour.
Good luck with the new album,
We'll
the
be
new
back.
direction. Look
Okay.
forward to it.
We'll be back.
This is our 6th record now. Or 5th or 6th record, something like that. I can't remember now. 5th record. But in some ways it feels like the 50th. But you get to a point, like I said, where you can't think anymore about what's right or what's wrong with you. So you've got to literally fall back and regroup. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't care about pressure from a label, and I don't care about when I'm supposed to go on tour. And all the time this is going on, you've got the fans in the back of your mind. You keep thinking, if I'm gone for a year and a half or 2 years, are they going to forget me? Then all these paranoias creep into you, and they become demons that visit you in the night. Everything about this record, with the exception, there's only one track on this record that did not have some sort of social comment on it. That's a song called Mean Man, which is short for Mean Motherfucking Man, which is a song about Chris Holmes. I got into rock and roll to get my dick sucked. You know, I mean, let's face it, I'm not gonna lie about it. Of course, as you get older, other things become important. I'm not saying that that's still not a priority, but there are other things that are important in your life. I don't want to get to the point where we're so serious that we've lost sight of having fun anymore. But why can't you still have fun, but say something along the way? And that's what we're trying to do with this. I mean, you come up with an album called The Headless Children, and immediately everybody's going to think out of us, well, Wasp, The Headless Children, what are they doing now? It's not that at all. The Headless, well, the title track is an anti-nuclear war song. I've been given a gift that I can speak. I'm aware of it, and I know that out of the mouth comes the power to change. I felt lyrically that I had said everything that I could say in the genre that we were in before. It was like, you know, what was the point in going on? We wrote songs like Animal and Wild Child, Blind in Texas and all that stuff, and I thought they were really, really good songs. But you reach a point like where you hit a brick wall and you say, I've said all of this, and I'm never going to say it any better than I've already done it. And it's time to move on. And if you don't move on, if you don't grow as a band, then you're going to die. And I just reached a point where I said, hey, there's some things I've been feeling, like a lot of social issues, things that I've been thinking about a long time before Wasp were ever together, that I thought, well, now it's time to talk about those things, because you let it build up for such a long period of time. Because I didn't say anything before, because I was, you know, the mentality of, I thought the audience thought sex, drugs, rock and roll, that's all they care about. I never thought they were stupid. I just didn't think they cared. You know, didn't want to know about anything else. And over a period of time of talking to them day in and day out, you realize that, hey, yeah, a lot of people do care about other things in life. You know, there's more to life than news, weather, and sports, you know, so to speak. It's an American expression. You guys probably have it here. It's just in a different language, right? The image of Wasp is this bigger-than-life thing, and the thing that I'm trying to get across to people is that if we're going to make the social statements that we're making now, they can't come from that band. They can't come from that image. They have to come from real people. I mean, it's like I have to open up and let people know that I am a human being and that I care about people and other things, because, like I said, they're never going to get that message coming from the band. So it's very important that they understand that we're actually real people.
After we would watch the news at night and we would see anybody doing anything wrong to anybody anywhere in the world, I mean, that's really who the Headless Children are. Every time we saw, you know, a plane getting blown out of the sky or some other catastrophe happening, like what's recently happening with the students in China,
that's who the Headless Children are. So really, that break for me, and it wasn't a 2-year break, it was about a 4-month break actually, but 4 months then felt like 4 years, considering we had done a record and a tour and a record and a tour and a record and a tour. And pretty soon, you know, you're bouncing off the walls like Daffy Duck, you know, it's like, hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo, you know, it's like trying to figure out who you are after a while. So it really served as a break to reflect more about who we were and where, more importantly, where we were going. And I meet a lot of people that have been overwhelmed by the change, and I meet, you know, then there's some folks you walk up and hit them in the head with a brick bat and it still wouldn't faze them, you know, and it's like, I go, don't you get it? You know, this is like what I've been thinking all along, but I guess this goes back to the whole idea that first impressions aren't lasting, and they're seeing what they want to see. You know, I mean, they're still seeing me standing there with saw blades on and stuff like that. You know, hey, that's last year's model. You know, that's no longer valid. I mean, that's something I did, and we're not ashamed of anything we ever did, but that was then and this is now. And I think fans romance the idea in their minds of bands staying the same. They don't want them to change because they say, well, remember that first album or that second album and it wasn't that great and stuff. What they don't realize is the band doesn't grow. It's just like anything else in life. If you don't grow, you know, plant a tree, I mean, anything will die if it doesn't have somewhere to go. I've been working on some solo material for a long time, and I'm more than likely going to do a solo record before the next Wasp record. We have on our contract, I have to fulfill both of those before anything happens. And I think anytime an artist says that they're going to do a solo record, rumors just start running rampant. So I think that's a lot of what you have. I think Chris's marriage to Lita has probably fueled that flame a little bit, but if somebody knows something I don't know, then it's news to me. Let's put it that way. I've been a big Who fan forever, and I learned my craft of writing lyrics from Pete Townsend. And the whole idea of the Headless Children was we needed a way to reintroduce ourselves musically to the public. And we thought that the whole idea of, can you see the real me? Because nobody ever really could. I mean, everybody, all they saw was the saw blades and all that stuff before. Nobody could see, like, what I was personally thinking, which was reflective of what this record's all about. So I thought, well, I need another way to let people know what's going on inside. We've had some conversations about songwriting, and I've told him how I feel about him and what I've learned from him and stuff. And I wouldn't say he's my new best friend, but I've definitely made a friend.
When you look back on what you do in your career, a lot of times the early days are the ones that really stick out in your mind the most. And you say to yourself, why can't everything be like that? Well, hey, you know, everybody moves on and your lives become segregated to the point where you don't even go out socially anymore. And you miss all that. And, you know, you can go buy those videos, but that was a definite stage in our career, and we will never do that again. And it was great while it lasted, but you can't go out and do a steady diet of something you just don't want to do it anymore. People that when they bought the first record, they were listening with their eyes and not their ears. I mean, there was okay songs in that first record, but not near the degree of what there was in the second one. And it's not even in the same league as what Headless was, but that we needed to do a record that, like I said, was so far superior to anything we had done before to finally break that link in people's minds. Pete Townsend did a thing in The Kids Are All Right, where he's talking to the band and he goes, we must make a decision. We have reached a crossroads in our career. Shall we remain a circus and go on and smash everything up and all that, you know, and just go on the way we are, or shall we become known for what we are, which is really doing quality material? Well, that's the point that we got to. The difference is that we arrived at that point very early on. Wasp being very much locked into what it doesn't enable me to do everything that I want to do. I mean, in some ways, I'll be frank with you, I mean, it's gotten me where I am, but it's also been a ball and chain around my neck at the same time. I'm looking forward to what I'm going to do, but we'll have this conversation a year from now, and I'll tell you whether it's been good or not.
Well, the Headbangers Ball continues. With me on our magical, musical rock and roll bus, Blackie Lawless. How you doing?
I'm all right, yourself?
Good to see you here, man.
Good.
New album, The Headless Children.
This guy right here.
Yeah, well, actually, we have a shot of it. Now, I got a personal letter from you. as did every other person in the business.
You're going to tell everybody what it said on here, aren't you? Like, no, we're not gay.
No. I want to tell you about some of the PS there. About new directions with this album. There's a lot you guys have to say, especially with the lyrics.
This is a very serious record. I would like it to be taken seriously. It deals with a lot of social conscious issues, primarily drug abuse, which I feel is the single biggest problem we have, not just in America, but in the world. It deals with terrorism and things like that. You get to a point where you start to look around at what's around you. When I was writing the lyrics for the Headless Children, somebody said, well, where'd that come from? I said, well, over the interim as it was developing, I said I'd go home every night and I'd watch the news, and that's what I saw every night. I mean,
yeah.
We did a thing for this show where we're using a thing called reverse screen projection in the show, and I edited film for 6 weeks on it, and I saw about 50 years worth of hell condensed into about 7 minutes. And I don't want to preach to anybody or try to become their father or whatever. I understand that talking about drug abuse within this genre could be deemed as a very unattractive or unpopular point of view. But the things that I'm saying now are not an opinion, they're fact.
We'll talk more about this. We got to show a couple of videos, but hold the thought. We'll be right back with more. Right now, as Lita Ford, Ozzy Osbourne, Close My Eyes Forever. This ball continues. Blackie Lawless still with us here, and we've been talking about the new Wasp album, The Headless Children, also about the Headless Children being the Headless Children. You covered the Who song, The Real Me. How does that fit in with this theme?
Well, we were talking about very serious subjects a while ago, and one thing that I want to get across to people is that the image of Wasp and or myself for so long was this larger-than-life type thing.
Bloody, gory,
yeah,
cool thing.
Oh, that too. Saw blades, you know, it looked like I stepped out of an ad for Black & Decker, you know. But the things that we're trying to say now, that image can't say anymore. People have to understand that these feelings and these reflections of what's happening in the world today have to come from an honest-to-God human being. In other words, I've got to open myself up to let people see what's really going on inside me. And I thought, what a great way to say that musically. It's like, can you see the real me?
Now, I just want to ask, you said that about a year and a half ago you realized that, that there is an important message that can be portrayed in rock and roll. What was it, a personal experience that just
well, I think, you know, over a period of time, you know, you start to think sex, drugs, rock and roll. You know, that's all everybody cares about. Nobody wants to hear about anything else. And after you talk to the fans over a period of time, I mean, we're going on our 6th year of making records now, you start to realize that there is more to life than news, weather, and sports, you know. And there are some folks that care about what's going on. I mean, I don't want to preach to anybody or anything. You know, if I want to go out and have a few drinks, that's my business. You know, the only thing I'm trying to say to folks is take a little responsibility for yourself. Don't get in a freeway out here or get in a car, go on a freeway and kill some man and his family. You know, have a good time, do whatever you want. Just don't blow up the guy next to you. That's what this record's all about.
We're going to take a look at the video for The Real Me. This was done by Jim Yukich.
Yes.
Well, did he do this just after he did the Debbie Gibson video?
You heard that, didn't you? Well, you know, we weren't supposed to talk about this, but yes. And there was some, you heard about that, huh? Well, what happened is that she rented, apparently it was a rather expensive video that she did, and if any of you people know anything about the way rental companies work and cameras and things like that, if you rent on Friday, you keep it until Monday. It just so happens we shot on Sunday, you know. I'll leave it to your imagination. You can fill in the blanks.
And here's more of the Headbangers ball for you right now. Adam Cray along with Blackie Lawless of Wasp. Taking the show out on the road again?
Yeah. This thing is kind of interesting. I don't know if they showed the album cover or not, but what we're going to...
It'll happen right now.
Okay.
Magically appearing.
What we're going to attempt to do is to bring this album cover to life. And with the skull and all that you see in the background, that will be the backdrop. These people that you see here are all obviously, I mean, they're the real party boys.
Yeah, the Ayatollah.
Oh, yeah, they're all in there, all the fun guys. And we, like I said, we're going to attempt to bring this to life. We're going to take those images and bring them forward off of the screen so they're actually three-dimensional. And we're using a thing called reverse screen projection in the tour, where the drum riser starts to levitate. And as it does, it turns into a giant television set. It's about 12 feet across. And you then start to see how all these guys became famous. And it's some pretty, like I said, I edited these films for about 6 weeks, and I'm here to tell you, when I'm up singing the Headless Children, and you see Hitler behind me doing a speech at Nuremberg.
Yeah.
It's some really heavy stuff, but I want it to be taken in the proper light, because you have to understand that a lot of people might deem this as being sensationalism or something like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to run a trailer before the show, something to the effect that where the lights go out. It's like a film if a film needs set up, you know. It will say something to the effect that, make no mistake, the band in no way are trying to glorify what it is that you're about to see. If you do not learn from history, then you're damned to repeat it. We will run that in the native language of every country that we go to, so there is no mistake about what we're doing, because this is some really hairy stuff. I mean, when I was in Europe a couple of months ago, I was in Germany, and they made me aware that they had just had their national elections about 2 weeks before we were there.
Yeah.
They have a new Nazi party, and they won 13% of the vote.
It's a scary thought,
I mean, these guys just don't get it, man. I mean, how many times you got to hit them over the head? So hopefully this show will bring some of that to light.
So you going to go to Germany?
Yeah. We're going everywhere.
No, that's good. Well, thank you very much for dropping
Thanks,
by. I'll be looking forward to the show, and
Okay.
whenever you're in town.
Bye-bye.
We have Blackie Lawless from W.A.S.P as my co-host for today's show. Welcome. What have you been up to today?
I left New York City at 9 o'clock this morning, and I've been running around like a chicken with my head not on, and I'm here talking to you now.
So now all the videos that we're playing in today's show are ones that you chose specifically. So we'll ask you a little bit as to why you chose each particular video, and we'll talk about your new album.
Yay.
All right. The new album, Headless Children. Is this another Blackie Lawless being a bad guy again?
It's a very serious record. It's about serious subjects. I want the record to be taken seriously. And people, when they hear the idea of the Headless Children, they think, oh God, they're out lopping kids' heads off again. This is not about that at all. We took 2 years off to make this, and over the course of time, if you do what we've done and been where we've been and see the things that we've seen, you can't help but reflect or have it reflect in your music. I mean, the whole idea of the Headless Children was every time I would watch the news and I saw a plane loaded full of people getting blown up somewhere or some other catastrophe happening in the world, that's really what the Headless Children are all about. And I guess it's maturing as an artist.
Are you succumbing to the pressure of people like Tipper Gore who are yelling and screaming about your lyrics?
The PMRC, which sounds like a problem women have monthly, is, I want everybody to fall off the seats laughing now. They were using television as an electronic soapbox to spew propaganda, to create profile for a candidate, and it worked magnificently for them. They were never ever about censoring records.
But were you not using rock and roll as your own soapbox, spewing off what you were singing about the, you know, women and the degradation of women, that kind of thing?
No, it was never about degrading women or anything. I mean, we did a thing in the show where we used a girl on a rack, but it wasn't...
Excuse me, you what?
A woman on a rack.
A woman on a rack.
But it wasn't...
Complimentary, perhaps?
Well, come on, it wasn't, you know, a dig at women. It was, we thought it was theater. And I don't apologize for anything we ever did in the past. But the object of being an artist is to stir the minds of men. Unless you're doing that, unless you're saying something musically, lyrically, or you're touching people emotionally somehow, you are not an artist. You are a factory that makes records.
Okay, I want to talk about your music more, but let's, what videos we're going to play now. We're playing Judas Priest and Motorhead. Tell me why you chose those two. No? Oh, we're just going to play Iron Maiden first? Okay, we'll play Iron Maiden first. Talk about Iron Maiden for a second.
Steve Harris is a good friend of mine, and I think Maiden are one of the premier metal bands around.
What's interesting is that I find that Maiden is a little bit like what you were talking about. They are very socially aware, very socially conscious. When they do their shows, they make a point of talking about suicide and other problems troubling young people, the same people that you are directing your songs at.
Well, let's hope somebody gets a message.
Iron Maiden for MuchMusic.
Let me say this, 95% of the people that do what we do don't realize the amount of responsibility that they have. Because we don't think that we're special. We wake up in the morning and we put on our pants just the same way everybody else does, so therefore we don't think what we're saying is that important. But what happens is you do a television show, or some kid's out there in radio land somewhere and he's listening to some rock god
somewhere on the radio, he's believing every word that guy is saying.
You know what's interesting is when I talked to you, now this is about 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago in our old building, you weren't as, perhaps, as responsible as this. You were still saying, well, yeah, I'm doing it. It's, you know, sometimes it's not so great, but it's not all that bad. You seem to have really changed your tune a bit here.
Well, when you look back in your life, everybody has signposts in their minds that point them in certain directions. And when you, like I said, when you go to places we've been and seen what we've seen, I had a girl come up to me in London about 3 years ago.
London, England?
And she says, I want to thank you for saving my life. And I said, excuse me? She goes, yeah. She says, I was a really bad junkie. And she said, there was a line in one of your songs. We had a song in the first album called B.A.D., which had nothing to do with drug abuse at all. And there's a line in the song that says, it's the bloody fix you do. And she says, I interpreted that as being very unattractive as far as slamming junk. She says, and I was really bad off. If it wasn't for that song, I'd probably be dead now. And I thought to myself, whoop, 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 can't be having any of that now. You know, that's too much responsibility. You know, I just want to get on with my life and have fun. I couldn't get it out of my head. And I thought to myself after, I thought, here we did this and we weren't even trying. What could we do if we tried?
We have Judas Priest and Motorhead. Why'd you choose these two?
I think that the Priest video, just from a technical point of view of a video, is really well done. And we were talking about the rack a while ago. The girl that is the principal role in this was our first rack girl. Her name is Pam.
Cut! Go to video now! Don't give him any more airtime. Jeez. We were talking about 2.5 years ago, you probably don't remember this, about roles that people play in music. And I was curious, do you consider your role to be the hero or the bad guy?
I've been asked a lot of things, but I've been asked my underwear size, all kinds of stuff like that, never anything like that. Public's perception would probably be antisocial. But then again, that's the essence of rock and roll, too. Rock and roll is about going against the grain. You know, it's like, I go watch a band, and if they ain't got that curl in their lip, they ain't gonna make it with me.
They gotta be bad to be good?
Something like that. You know, that's very good. Yeah, you guys should do some more of those.
Okay, what bands do you like? What bands have you been listening a lot to?
We were talking about Living Colour a while ago during the break. I think they're an important band because of what they're saying. And I would like to see, and I want everybody to realize this is not the flavor of the month coming out of us. I mean, I don't think, I keep saying this, but you can't see what we've seen and do what we've done without it having changed your life. And I could never ever see W.A.S.P. and myself as well approaching a record quite the same again. So I think the more bands that have something constructive to say, I mean, hey, I still want to have fun. I mean, but why can't you have fun and say something as well?
No reason. I'm into that.
Absolutely.
That's good. It's actually...
for me.
Yeah, okay, you got a point there. All right. What else do I want to talk to?
Attack me now.
All right, here we go. Your new album is...
Well, you get out of that real quick, you know. It's like, I'm the boss, I'm the host, I'll do whatever I want.
That's right. That's what you learn after doing this for years and years. So your new album, as you said, deals with some very important issues, and it's a thinking man's record, and with fun, but it's different than your other albums. You're progressing, you're becoming an artist. Now, how's that going to affect your live show? In your live shows in the past, you've used the rack, you've used the scraped out skull, drinking simulated blood, but also the imagery that you're using is important. And then there's the buzzsaw codpiece.
I choked on that a few times myself.
So how's that going to affect your show now? What kind of props are you going to use?
What we're attempting to do is to bring this album cover to life. And if we've got a shot of this somewhere around here, this album
actually
cover.
We do. CD.
How convenient. What we're going to attempt to do is to bring this album cover to life with the desert in the back, which you can't really see on the CD box, but that skull is sitting in the middle of a desert, which is essentially a bottomless pit, and you see all these millions of people coming out of it. And in the front we have the Party Boys there, who are famous villains throughout history. And those villains will come forward on the stage. They will be three-dimensional. They'll be about 8 feet tall. And in the middle of the stage is the drum riser, and the drum riser starts levitating in the middle of the show and turns into a giant television set, about 10 feet. And behind that, we will use rear screen projection. And you will then see how all these people became famous throughout the course of the show. I mean, when we're doing Headless Children and Hitler's up behind me doing his speech at Nuremberg, I mean, that's going to get some people's attention. That portion of the show in the song The Headless Children is where you will see that. But I think this record primarily deals with drug abuse, which is the single biggest problem we have, not just in North America, but in the world. And there is a specific song called Thunderhead, which is about a junkie. And I don't know if you've ever seen anybody shoot junk before, but it is not a pleasant thing. And in the middle of this song, the TV set goes back up again, and you will then see how this stuff is done. And I have seen this show, we've been rehearsing it in LA for about a month, and it definitely makes people squirm when they watch it. But the object is to get the fans, when they walk out of this room, to run the films back in their own mind, to think, what did I just see? To make it so unattractive that they would never, ever entertain the idea of doing anything.
You're doing
like
a sort of a Clockwork Orange on the audience?
Well, I don't know about that, but the object is to create something that they, once they see it, they will never forget it the rest of their lives.
When are you going to be playing live and where?
We start, oddly enough, in all places, Belfast, Ireland on May 4th. We will do 2 months in Europe. We will come back to America for about 3 months, a second leg of Europe for another couple of months, then back to America again.
Where does Canada fit in?
Well, America, North America.
Canada.
Canada is part of North America,
well,
correct?
There's still
Unless somebody pulled something on me since the time I left here, you know.
Okay.
The kid gets defensive, including Canada in both of those legs. And then we will do a 5th leg in Japan, and that'll take us somewhere to around Christmas.
Okay, video's coming up now. What are we playing here?
I give up.
AC/DC and Helix. You said you chose Helix because they're friends of yours?
Oh, yeah, the Helix boys will always have a place in my heart because we did our very first North American tour, including Canada, with them, and we really had some fun, and I wish them well wherever they're doing or wherever they're at.
And AC/DC?
Don't know shinola about those guys.
But you just like them?
I just like them,
yeah.
You know? I mean, you have to be a communist, not like AC/DC.
I agree, 100%. Boy, you're so American. Here it is, AC/DC on MuchMusic's Power Hour. Blackie Lawless is still here, sticking it out. Okay, here's the question.
Really, you've been beating up on me pretty good here. 3 rounds so far, you're winning.
Are we?
No, I'm just kidding.
I thought we're pretty much tied. You're doing pretty good.
Well, I'm struggling for a rookie. It's okay.
Okay. You have said that you think that people in rock and roll should just retire gracefully when they've reached their pinnacle of success. The Who has just announced their new tour. How do you feel about that?
You're asking the wrong person there because I'm very biased towards them. So, I mean, they could do just about anything, and I would probably get down and worship at the foot of the master. So I'm really not the right guy to ask that.
Well, then you're the right guy. So you think that the tour is a great idea?
For me personally, but I can't speak for everybody else.
You did a cover of their song, The Real Me. Have they heard it? Have you heard from them? And what'd they say?
It was very, very nice. When we were in London a couple of months back, I sent a copy of The Real Me to Peter Townsend, and I thought, I'm never going to hear from this guy, right? You know, it's like, you know, yeah, we recorded that back in whenever, you know. And he sent me a letter, and it said that he very, very much liked it, and he said a couple other little technical things about it. At the bottom of the letter, he signed it, Love, Pete. And I got to tell you, it made my day because I learned my craft of writing lyrics from this man.
Okay, a couple more videos. Sword, we have the album here. Would you like to show the album? There's Sword. Now, have you heard this band yourself?
No, I can't say as I have.
But you're interested in Canadian product, and this is the latest. It's a brand new video. It's called Sweet Dreams, and it's a very lovely album cover. Skull with snake going through it. Do you like snakes?
Yeah, they're tasty.
Good. And
Tastes
Ozzy,
like chicken.
Ozzy, Miracle Man, you said that you want to play this
Well,
video.
I mean, Ozzy, this video is so hysterical for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. I mean, he's got pigs as a congregation. He's supposed to be Jimmy Swaggart. And, I mean, it's such a goof on it. I mean, you can't help but like it.
Okay, here we go. Ozzy Osbourne on MuchMusic. The show's almost over, but you had fun, didn't you?
I can't remember when it's been a great pressure.